Hey there, we're going to read chapters 7 and 8 from The Night at Dawn, second book in the Magic Treehouse series. Chapter 7, A Secret Passage. Annie and Jack raced back up the winding stairs and down the long hallway. They hadn't gone far when they heard shouting behind them. Dogs barked in the distance. "They're coming," Annie cried. "In here," said Jack. He shoved open a door off the hallway and pulled Annie into a dark room. Jack pushed the door shut. Then Annie shined her flashlight around the room. There were rows of sacks and wooden barrels. "I'd better look in the book," Jack said, pulling out the book and flipping through the pages. "Shh," said Annie. "Someone's coming." Jack and Annie jumped behind the door as it creaked open. Jack held his breath. A light from a torch danced wildly over the sacks and barrels. The light disappeared. The door slammed shut. "Oh, man," whispered Jack. "We have to hurry. They might come back." His hands were trembling as he turned the pages of the castle book. "Here's a map of the castle," he said. "Look, this must be the room we're in. It's the storeroom." Jack studied the room in the book. "These are sacks of flour and barrels of wine." "Who cares? We have to go," said Annie, "before they come back." "No, look," said Jack. He pointed at the map. "There's a trapdoor." He read aloud. "In this castle, a trapdoor led from the storeroom through a secret passage to a precipice over the moat." "What's a precipice?" said Annie. "I don't know. We'll find out," said Jack. "But first, we have to find the trapdoor." Jack looked at the picture carefully. Then he shined the flashlight around the room. The floor of the room was made of stones. The trapdoor in the picture was 5 stones from the door to the hallway. Jack shined the light on the floor and counted the stones out loud. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He stomped on the 5th stone. It was loose. Jack put the flashlight on the floor. He worked his fingers under the thin slab of stone and tried to lift it. "Help," Jack said. "It's heavy." Annie helped Jack lift the stone square out of its place. Underneath was a small wooden door. Annie and Jack tugged on the rope handle of the door. The door fell open with a thunk. Jack picked up the flashlight and shined it down the hole. "There's a little ladder," he said. "Let's go." He clipped the flashlight onto his belt and felt his way around the small ladder. Annie followed. When they reached the bottom of the ladder, Jack shined the light around them. There was a tunnel. Jack crouched down and began moving through the damp, creepy tunnel. The flashlight dimly flickered across the stone walls. He shook the light. Were the batteries going dead? "I think our light's dying," he said to Annie. "Hurry," she called from behind him. Jack went faster. His back hurt from crouching. The light got dimmer and dimmer. Jack was desperate to get out of the castle before the batteries died completely. Soon he reached another small wooden door. It was the door at the end of the tunnel. Jack unlatched the door and pushed it open. He poked his head outside. He couldn't see anything in the misty darkness. The air felt cool and fresh. He took a deep breath. "Where are we?" whispered Annie behind him. "What do you see?" "Nothing, but I think we've come to the outside of the castle," said Jack. "I'll find out." Jack put the flashlight in his pack. He put the pack on his back. He stuck his hand out the door. He couldn't feel the ground. "I'm going to have to go feet first," he said. Jack turned around in the small tunnel. He lay down on his stomach. He stuck one leg out the door, then the other. Jack inched down bit by bit until he was hanging out the door, clinging to the ledge. "This must be the precipice," he called to Annie. "I can't touch the ground. Pull me up." Annie reached for Jack's hands. "I can't hold you," she said. Jack felt his fingers slipping. Then down he fell through the darkness. Splash! Chapter 8. The Night. Water filled Jack's nose and covered his head. His glasses slipped off. He grabbed them just in time. He coughed and flailed his arms. "Jack!" Annie was calling from above. "I'm in the moat," said Jack, gasping for air. He tried to tread water and put his glasses back on. With his pack, his shoes, and his heavy clothes, he could barely stay afloat. Splash! "Hi, I'm here," Annie spluttered. Jack could hear Annie nearby, but he couldn't see her. "Which way's land?" Annie asked. "I don't know, just swim." Jack dog-paddled through the cold black water. He heard Annie swimming too. At first it seemed as if she was swimming in front of him, but then he heard a splash behind him. "Annie?" he called. "What?" Her voice came from in front, not behind. Another splash. Behind. Jack's heart almost stopped. Crocodiles? He couldn't see anything through his water-streaked glasses. "Annie," he whispered. "What?" "Swim faster." "But I'm here. I'm over here, near the edge," she whispered. Jack swam through the dark toward her voice. He imagined a crocodile slithering after him. Jack's hand touched a wet, live thing. "Ah!" he cried. "It's me. Take my hand," said Annie. Jack grabbed her hand. He pulled him to the edge of the moat. They crawled over an embankment onto the wet grass. "Oh, man," Jack said. He was shivering all over. His teeth were chattering. He shook the water off his glasses and put them back on. It was so misty he couldn't see the castle. He couldn't even see the moat, much less a crocodile. We made it," said Annie. Her teeth were chattering too. "I know," said Jack, "but where are we?" He peered at the foggy darkness. Where was the drawbridge, the windmill, the hawk house, the grove of trees, the treehouse? Everything had been swallowed up by the thick, soupy darkness. Jack reached into his wet backpack and pulled out the flashlight. He pushed the switch. Nothing happened. The batteries were dead. They were trapped, but not in a dungeon. They were trapped in the still, cold darkness. "Nee!" A horse's whinny echoed through the night. The clouds parted. A full moon was shining in the sky. A pool of light spread through the mist. Jack and Annie saw a shadowy figure just a few feet away. It was the knight. The knight sat on the black horse. His armor shone in the moonlight. A visor hid his face, but he seemed to be staring straight at Jack and Annie. Kate, Chapter 9 next time. See you then.